Hi guys, my name is Sensei Fu, and today I'll be shooting a video for an interview that I'll be doing for a high school student who's doing I guess a project on martial art. So he has approached me to ask me some questions. So here they are. Okay, he wrote about 16 questions for me. Alright, question number one, define what is martial art? Well, the easiest answer probably is to go on Wikipedia, type it in, and look it up. But my definition of martial art is basically a form of combat. It can be hand to hand, it can be with weapons, it can be without weapons, it can be weapons versus non-weapons. Okay, but in most cases, we talk about weapons that are using your hand. We're not talking about like projectile weapons, like explosive and stuff like that. That's kind of very sophisticated. We're talking about martial art. For me, is about taking a long time, a skill set that takes a long time to acquire, and because it takes so long, a good martial artist will also develop a way to control the mind, a way to discipline themselves, a way to be in tune with the environment. Alright, question number two. What type of martial art do you teach? The type of martial art I teach is it's a blend of all the things that I've done in the past. At my school here, we teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, we teach Judo, we teach Thai boxing, and we teach full contact karate. And I also have a wrestling instructor that comes in every Tuesday night to teach wrestling. Now, am I saying that we do all those things at once? No. What I do is I take elements, or I synthesize certain concepts or strategies or movement, and I try to make it so that it's efficient, so that my students are well-rounded, and so that my students can engage in empty hand combat and can go from let's just say boxing range into Muay Thai clinch range, into Greco-Roman tie up, into throwing the opponent down, to fighting on the ground. Or the 1 minute they're boxing, next minute they're just doing a throw into the ground. From there they engage the battle onto the ground, and for whatever reason they stand back up, and then from there they start doing Thai boxing or etc. Alright, so basically what I teach at my school is mixed martial art. Okay, so that's a very popular lexicon. Mixed martial art is it's been around, I think maybe 20 years in the modern day context, but prior to that it has been around in different shapes and form, but it was never really called mixed martial art. Alright, so mixed martial art is basically combat athletes engaging in the context of combat sports in multi-dimensional way of fighting. In other words, they can be fighting standing up, they can be trying to throw each other, they can be trying to throw, once they get to the ground, they could be trying to submit each other, scramble for position, try to pin each other. At the same time, they're trying to hit each other on the ground. Alright, so it's a very fluid type of fighting system. Alright, what are the difference between all of them? Well, like I said, what at my school, what we emphasize is fluidity, the ability to flow from one art to the next. And my personal philosophy is that 10, 15, 20 years from now, there won't be any like differentiation between each art. They'll just be fighting. What happened is somebody got enlightened in a certain way of fighting, and then they teach it to their student, and then the student create a very dogmatic way of approaching their way of fighting, and so it becomes a style or a system of fighting, which in my opinion is bad. Mixed martial art basically brings the combat practitioner back to the core way of dealing or looking at combat. Alright, so at my school, for example, my students are taught to punch, kick, throw, fight on the ground, learn to get back up, and repeat the whole process if they need to. All right. At my school, we also teach a very tough mindset, a mindset of how to engage in battle, a mindset on how to condition themselves, a mindset of how to win in a very tactile, strategic type of way. All right. Question number 4. What kind of training did you have to take to become a martial art instructor? I don't think I really had any training to become a martial art instructor. Most martial arts school, basically, you just go and train, and if you have the patience, the aptitude, you stick around long enough, the instructor might pick you to lead the class, all right? And if you seem to be patient and you seem to have good rapport with your fellow classmate or people who are less experienced than you, then they give you more opportunity to practice teaching it. And some people have it, some people don't. In my case, I think I just picked it up really quickly, and I just became a very good teacher at it. And so what happened was I got more and more opportunity to basically teach martial art when I was still training, you know what I mean? And I taught obviously a couple levels below me, you know, and I had different instructors kind of guiding me along and kind of pointing out different details, okay? But it was not like I went to school to become a martial art instructor, all right? That's how it's most cases done. I think what's unique about me, I think, is I also went to school to be a designer, to be an artist, so I approach things in a very creative, non-linear way, and I like to break things apart and put them back together, all right? So maybe that's what makes me a good martial art instructor, in the sense that I approach martial art through a very different tangent points, all right? I'm also very well read. I read a lot about everything, and the last 6-10 years I read a lot about martial art, martial art philosophy, martial art teaching. I read about exercise, fitness, physiology, etc. All right, so in a way, it's like going to school, but you know, I'm self-directed. Question number 5: have you ever taught in a school classroom? If so, where and how long, and what did you teach? I teach judo at Finger Lakes Community College. It's a college credit course. It's worth 1 PE credit. So I've been doing that for now about 3 years. For the last 3, maybe 4 years, I've been teaching at SUNY Oswego. I teach at their summer enrichment program to middle schoolers from 5th to 8th grade. I also, for the last 5 years, been teaching at, you know, half a dozen after-school program. I teach at North Rose Wolcott, Red Creek. I have taught at North Rose Wolcott. I have taught at Red Creek. I'm currently teaching in the Lyons after-school program, North after-school program, Clyde after-school program. All right, and if you want more info, you can go to my website, which is fusionmma.com, and click on Founder. Okay. What kind of training is needed to teach in a PE class? I'm not quite sure. You know, PE is physical education. The state requires certain credentials or whatever. You know, I'm not a PE teacher per se, but I probably can do the job of a PE teacher because I've been doing this for 20 years now. And, you know, but in my case, my specialty is martial art, actually combat martial art. So this question, I'm not sure if it's really relevant to me. Okay, question number 7. Do you think martial arts should be taught in school? I'm not quite sure if it should be or should not be. I think it depends on the maturity, the culture, the culture of the school, the maturity of the student. In Japan, for example, martial art is taught as a PE course, like judo, kendo, karate. All right. In Korea, taekwondo is taught as a PE class. In the Philippines, I know Filipino martial art like eskrima or arnis is taught in the classroom setting. You know what I mean? So I guess it all depends on the context. But in America, we actually have wrestling. Okay, so a lot of students, a lot of high school and middle school teach wrestling. All right, so a lot of people don't view that as martial art, but it is martial art. All right. The question goes, do you think martial art should be taught in school? You know, like I said, it's really difficult to say. It depends on the culture and the administrator, how support they are, how supportive the school board is. You know, I teach martial art all over the place, and I find that that the general public are very ignorant about what martial art is. The understanding of martial art is shaped by Hollywood, shaped by media. All right. For example, I would go to different places to teach, and middle school students would ask me if I know Jackie Chan or Jet Li or whatever, or they'll ask me if I know how to do like a jumping, spinning back kick, or if I can do this and that, and they'll get really excited. They'll come up to me and tell me all the things they've seen on TV or what their uncle, father, cousin have taught them, and I would look at them and I'll kind of smile because 99% of the time it's inaccurate. You know, I mean, 99% of the time it's just some stuff that they saw on television and their uncle, cousin, father, whatever, you know, thought they knew what they were doing and did it and you know what I mean. So for me, I kind of get worried about teaching martial art at a public school sometimes because there's a lot of ignorance out there, and I don't want to perpetuate those ignorance. So in my opinion, martial arts should only be taught in public school when it's being taught by a qualified martial art instructor. Okay, I'm not talking about someone who maybe went to school for a couple of years and got a bachelor in physical education and all of a sudden become a certified martial instructor. No. Martial art, in my opinion, takes a very long time to develop. All right. I think it should be taught in school at like by someone who's been around for a long time. You know, like I'm 40 years old. I've experienced a lot of hardship, experienced a lot of things in my life, and I also been doing martial art for 18, 19, 20 years now. So when I teach it, I bring a huge, vast of experience. You know what I mean? And I find that if martial arts being taught by some PE teacher who has a bachelor in physical education, I feel it's an injustice. It's an injustice. And so in my opinion, I would say no, unless it's being taught by a very qualified, very thoughtful, very insightful martial art instructor. Okay, next question. If you were to teach martial art in school, what type of martial art would best be taught to middle school and high school students? Okay. Once again, it all depends on the context and the environment and the culture. I teach a blend of everything. I think partly because I'm very lucky that I've been exposed to a lot of martial art. I have black belts in 2, 3, 4 different systems of martial art training, so I can pick and choose and kind of blend things together. But in my opinion, if you're dealing with like middle school students or high school students, who are kind of like a lot of energy, and you have wrestling mats or well padded mattings, I would prefer to teach either wrestling or judo. All right. Let's just say you don't have the funding for wrestling mats. Then my next aspect I would teach is either Thai boxing, all right, or karate, or full contact karate. All right. I find traditional karate to be tedious, to be too long, and I bore the student. All right. So that's my personal bias, but at the same time, I've been teaching at different public school setting for the last 5-6 years now, all over the place. So, it all depends on maturity of the student and the environment that I am in. All right, question number 9. If you were to teach in a school, how much would you charge for the overall cost day for you to come in each day to teach? Well, I charge anywhere from $50 to $70 per session. In each session, it's about 2 hours long. All right, 2 hours, 3 hours. It depends. It's 3 hours, a little bit more. All right, and it depends on how far I have to travel. So it's anywhere from $50 to $90 a session, and a session can be anywhere from an hour to 2 hours to 3 hours. All right. It takes a lot of my time to pack all my equipment and drive there and stuff like that. So that's the going rate. I usually, it's best if I teach a group of maybe 8 to 14 students. Anything bigger than that gets way too chaotic. All right, next question. How long would it take to learn one lesson? I think the best time frame is anywhere from 1 hour to an hour and a half. Maybe 2 hours if we're dealing with really, really mature students. So far, I have not met any middle schoolers or high school schoolers who are mature enough to take a 2-hour lesson. So anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half is pretty good. What I do is, what I do is I usually come in with a set of concept or strategy or something that I want to pass on to students, and then what I try to do is I try to achieve those goals. So that's basically my lesson. 11. What is your opinion on? It's not worded very well. What is your opinion on that people in this world think martial art is bad or too aggressive? So basically, I think what he's trying to say is, what's your opinion on what people think about martial art, if it's too bad or aggressive? Well, martial art, like anything in life, it's taught to a wide spectrum of the population, all right, and depending on the instructor or the style of martial art, it gravitate, different people, you know what I mean? So obviously you're gonna have people who are very aggressive, and and if it's not taught correctly to them, they get even more hyper aggressive. And in some cases, martial art, when not taught correctly, make people even more wimpy, because they actually condition them to fight in a certain way or defend themselves in a certain way, which are very ineffective. All right. So I think martial art, when taught properly, gets down to dealing with your mind and dealing with a violent situation. In other words, how your mind confront or deal with violent situation, and that process does not get resolved overnight. It's a lifetime process, and most people will not be successful at it. I mean, I still deal with a lot of insecurity and anger, frustration, whatever, and I think when people acknowledge that, then they become better martial artists. I mean, when they understand their fallibility and when they understand the weakness. So, in my opinion, martial art is aggressive, from a physical point of view, but when taught correctly, there's an equilibrium process that's involved, so it's actually not aggressive. But once again, we need to deal with who's teaching the class and what style it is and who gravitates toward it. I mean, I have students here who my personality is not very, aggressive in the sense of like screaming and shouting. I'm aggressive in the sense of pushing, and I'm trying to push for what I want and try to really push my students to achieve the highest level of physical and combat fitness. But I have students here who will come and train for maybe a couple of days or a week, and they're hyper aggressive. You know, I mean, they have a chip on their shoulder, and probably within a couple of weeks or a month they would drop out because the environment I have here is very respectful. You know, we're a team. We try to push each other, but we never hurt each other. You know, I mean, we train very, very hard. You know, my students, when they leave here, we're all really sweaty. We get bruises. You know what I mean? Our bodies really sore. You know, but no one is ever hurt. You know, no one's ever hurt maliciously, and I think that's how it should be done. You know what I mean? But unfortunately, like I said again, in the previous question, martial art in America or just in general is shaped by the media. You know what I mean? And the media have no, they like to sell the sizzle, not the steak. So they like to, you know, point to, they like to sensationalize things. You know what I mean? And then, so what happens is you see stuff on the movie or whatever, and they never show a martial instructor who's very quiet or meek or whatever, you know what I mean? Well, actually I'm wrong about that. The first Karate Kid did a really good job of that, you know, I mean, Mr. Miyagi, you know, but in general, martial art in the media is all about fighting and you know, kicking butt and stuff like that, you know what I mean? And therefore, people's opinion is shaped by that, you know, which is wrong, but unfortunately, people do not take time to, you know, dig in deeper to what the media portray of martial art, you know. So to basically answer your question, you know, what other people think is not really relevant, you know what I mean? I do my own thing. I have a website, I have lots of YouTube videos, and I try to educate people on what I do, what I've been exposed to, and the journey that I am following, you know what I mean? So what you need to do is you need to kind of like find out for yourself, and you got to find instructors that have the same philosophy or the same idealism of what you want, you know what I mean? What is your opinion on students learning martial arts in school? Like I said, you know what I mean? It's neither there or here, you know what I mean? It depends on the culture of the school, right, and the maturity of the student. You know, if the student, all they want to do is learn how to be like the next Jackie Chan or Jet Li or whatever, you know, the next UFC fighter, then I don't think it's a good way. I don't think it should be taught at school. You know what I mean? It's just another flash in the pants. It's just another passing hobby. And for me, I probably would not do that because it's just not me. You know, I would not teach at a school so that kids would jump up and down and do all these crazy stuff. That's not for me, you know. But I do teach it at a school setting, and I really emphasize the character building. I really emphasize the ability to defend yourself, the ability to get physically in shape, and basically have a better understanding of who you are as a human being. All right. If you were to teach martial arts in school, what would your rules be? Well, I only have 3 rules when I teach at different after-school programs, and basically they are: 1, be safe, so don't do anything that's not safe. Rule number 2 is follow my direction or instruction, and rule number 3 is to have fun. Because what happened is I would teach at the school, and you would have different physical maturity. You know, different students will mature differently, or they will come in with different attributes. And when we play games, or when they, you know, have to hit something like the focus mitt or whatever, I don't want the students to compare themselves to someone else. You know what I mean? I don't want the students to feel bad. But excuse me, it's getting late. I do want them to try their best. You know what I mean? So I only have 3 rules: be safe, follow my direction and have fun. All right. Rule number 15. Question number 15. If someone was to get bullied in your class during a practice session, how would you handle it? Tough question, you know what I mean? I try to create an environment where there is no bullying. I try to observe. I try to really have a good grasp on things. In my adult class, we never have bullies because I would put up with it. I would just ask them to leave. You know what I mean? This is my school. This is my thing, right? If I was to teach at a public school, it's a little bit different because, obviously there's like rules you have to follow in a public school setting. But once again, I probably wouldn't deal with it. I probably would kick the student out who's getting bullied. You know what I mean? Who's doing the bullying. The students who's bullied, I would try to empower them. I would try to, make them, I would like to use the word hard target in the sense of empowering them and making them physically and mentally and emotionally strong. You know what I mean? But the person who bullied, I just don't have time to deal with them. You know what I mean? I might pull them aside and talk to them, but if they're not receptive to what I'm teaching, then I'm not going to deal with them. So for me, teaching martial arts is a very personal thing. I've been doing it for a while now, and it brings a lot of joy to my life. It defines who I am to a certain extent because I spent so much of my time doing it. So when someone bullied in my class, it's almost sacrilegious, you know what I mean? So I wouldn't deal with it. I would ask them to leave, ask the bully to leave, Number 16. Why would you want to teach students in school about self-defense and martial art? Like I said before, I teach students because I feel like it's beneficial to them. It's a good thing. And only the students are receptive to learning. You know what I mean? Like I said before, martial art is shaped by the media. So I would go and teach at all these schools and they all want to do all these crazy stuff. And I don't want to propagate that. You know what I mean? But on the self-defense level, I think it's good. But to really, really learn how to defend yourself takes a long time. I can come to school and show concept and strategies and movement and techniques. But at the end of the day, they don't really do much. I want to be honest. They maybe show a student a framework of doing something. But to really, really get good at it, the students have to devote quite a bit amount of time. And to be honest, not all young people have the maturity to devote a number of hours to achieve a specific or to accomplish a specific goal. You know what I mean? Martial art can be taught at the school, you know what I mean? But I just feel like it has to be taught by someone who's a little bit more mature, have a lot of life experience. Because martial art encompasses character building, empowerment, understanding of how to hurt someone and understanding how to defend yourself. You know what I mean? So I hope you guys enjoy the little short interview I did for the student. He sent it to me via email. So I don't really have time to sit down with him, but hopefully he's able to write a good report about it. All right, hope to see you guys soon. My website's fusionmma.com, and you can also find me on Facebook. My Facebook fan page is Fusion Mixed Martial Arts. Thank you.